The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as Maya stepped into the stark interview room, her heart pounding beneath her second-hand blazer. The space was cold and impersonal, four white walls, a desk, 2 chairs, and a clock that seemed louder than it should be. She adjusted the baby carrier strap to her chest, whispering reassurances to her 6-month-old daughter who stirred restlessly. The interviewer, a man in his 50s with silver-rimmed glasses and a clipboard, didn't look up right away. He gestured for her to sit, already scribbling notes. Maya's hands trembled as she smoothed her skirt and perched on the edge of the chair. Then, just as the first question was asked, the baby began to fuss. A small whimper turned into a high-pitched cry that echoed in the sterile room. Maya's face flushed deep red. She rocked gently, murmuring soft lullabies, but the cries only grew louder. The interviewer paused, lowering his pen, a crease forming between his brows. The silence stretched thin. Maya swallowed hard, panic rising in her chest like a tide. She'd tried to find a babysitter. She'd called 3 friends and begged her neighbor, but no one was available. She didn't want to bring her baby. She knew what it would look like. Still, this job could change everything, and she couldn't afford not to try. "I'm so sorry," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Her baby wailed again. The interviewer exhaled audibly, and Maya felt the opportunity slipping away before her eyes. The crying finally softened into hiccups as Maya gently bounced her daughter in the carrier, her hand trembling as she brushed away a tear from her own cheek. The room had gone quiet again, except for the baby's tiny sniffs. She looked up at the man across the desk, expecting him to end the interview then and there. But instead, he just looked at her, waiting. There was no point pretending anymore. Something inside her broke open. "I didn't want to bring her," she began, her voice barely steady. "I tried everything, called everyone I know. But I couldn't find anyone to watch her, and I couldn't miss this. I need this job." Her words came faster now, tumbling out before she lost the nerve. "I've been working nights at a diner. Just barely holding it together. Her dad left when I was 4 months pregnant. No child support. No family nearby. I'm doing this alone." She paused, embarrassed at how exposed she suddenly felt. But she couldn't stop. "I want a better life for her. I'm not looking for sympathy, I can do the work. I just need someone to give me a chance." The interviewer didn't speak at first. He didn't write anything down either. He just looked at her, really looked, like he was seeing her for the first time. Maya lowered her gaze, unsure of what she had just done. Maybe she had said too much. Or maybe, for once, telling the truth would be enough. The silence in the room lingered, but it no longer felt heavy, it felt thoughtful. The interviewer leaned back slightly in his chair, the clipboard now resting forgotten on the desk. His eyes weren't on Maya anymore, but on a framed photo nestled beside his computer. A woman with kind eyes smiled out from the picture, a swaddled newborn in her arms. Maya couldn't see it from her angle, but she noticed his expression soften, something shifted. He cleared his throat and sat forward again, his voice quieter this time. "My wife," he said, almost as if to himself. "She raised our son mostly on her own too. I traveled a lot back then, thought I was doing the right thing, chasing the career, building a future. But she was the one who held everything together." His gaze met Maya's, and for the first time, it didn't feel like an interview. It felt like a conversation between 2 people who understood struggle. "She passed away a few years ago," he added. "Cancer. Fast. Unexpected." He stopped there, emotions flickering across his face, grief, regret, something unspoken. Then he looked at Maya's daughter, who was now sleeping peacefully against her chest, her tiny hand curled near her chin. "You remind me of her," he said softly. "Not just because you're doing this alone. But because you're still here, trying. Even when everything says you shouldn't be." Maya didn't know what to say. She only nodded, tears threatening again, not from fear this time, but from the rare feeling of being seen. The moment stretched between them, heavy with quiet understanding. Maya clutched her hands in her lap, unsure whether the interview was over or just beginning. The baby let out a small sigh in her sleep, and the only sound in the room was the distant ticking of the wall clock. Then, slowly, the interviewer reached into his drawer and pulled out a folder. He opened it, glanced over the contents, and then looked back at her with something almost like a smile. "You've got experience. You've got grit. And honestly," he said, pushing the folder toward her, "we need people like you here, people who know what it means to keep going when everything gets hard." Maya blinked, confused. She leaned forward and opened the folder. Inside was an offer letter. Her mouth fell open slightly, eyes darting over the words, making sure it was real. "We can talk about schedule flexibility," he added. "Maybe some remote days to start. Bring her with you when you need to. This company talks a lot about family, we might as well start acting like it." Maya's breath caught. The weight she'd been carrying for months, maybe years, cracked and fell away in that instant. Her eyes flooded, and she wiped at them with the back of her sleeve, laughing softly through the tears. "Thank you," she whispered. "You have no idea what this means." He nodded, but said nothing more. He didn't need to. The kindness had already spoken louder than words ever could. Maya stepped out of the interview room clutching the folder to her chest, her baby still sleeping soundly against her. The hallway was quiet, lined with closed office doors and soft afternoon light streaming in through narrow windows. For a moment, she just stood there, letting the silence settle over her like a warm blanket. Her legs felt weak, not from exhaustion this time, but from relief. As she walked slowly toward the elevator, the offer letter tucked safely in her arm, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time: possibility. Not just for survival, but for growth. For joy. For mornings without panic and nights without tears. She reached the elevator and pressed the button, then turned back. The interviewer stood at the end of the hallway, watching quietly from the doorway. He didn't wave, didn't speak. But when their eyes met, he gave a small nod. The kind of nod that says, "You've got this now." The kind that offers more than approval, it offers belief. Maya nodded back, blinking through tears. The elevator doors slid open. She stepped inside and looked down at her baby, who stirred slightly in her sleep, lips parting in a tiny yawn. The doors closed. And for the first time in a very long time, Maya allowed herself to imagine a different future, one where people saw her not as a burden, but as someone worth investing in. Because someone did. And that made all the difference.